Hey everybody, Smart Silver Stacker here. Hope you're doing well. In today's video, I want to talk about the great economic upheaval that we are currently living through. But I don't want to focus on the doom and gloom side of things. I think there's maybe a little too much of that out there sometimes, and I'm just as guilty as the next guy about focusing on the negative side of things in regards to this economy. And it's hard not to do because there's a lot of negative stuff out there. But the important thing to remember at a time like this is that during times of great change, there are also great opportunities. And that is something that we are going to witness more and more over the coming months and years, because it is hard to deny that we are living through a time of massive change. We're living through a fourth turning event, and those are periods of great upheaval, great disruptions. When we get to the other side of this fourth turning event, our whole way of life and our society is likely to look very different than it does right now. I mean, it's already changed drastically over the past couple of years, and those changes are just going to accelerate moving forward until we get out of this thing. But for those who are prepared and those who are ready, there are going to be opportunities like at no other time during history. And that is really the good news. That is the silver lining of living through, these quote unquote interesting times, because there's going to be an opportunity for everybody who's prepared to make a fortune. Really, I do believe that. And we're going to see that as, unfortunately, a lot of people who aren't prepared are likely to lose a lot. People who are accustomed to living in comfort and to having a lot of amenities and luxuries here in the West, those are going to go away. And I do think that the overall level of those is going to likely decline here in the near future, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that our standard of living here in the West has simply been exorbitant for the past several decades, and we've been living on debt, we've been borrowing from the future, we've been abusing the dollar's status as the world reserve currency to just export fiat currency around the world in exchange for real stuff. A lot of it also has to do with the fact that a lot of the wealth is going to be transferred from the lower and middle classes up to the top, because that's what we got. We've got basically a plutocracy. They confiscate wealth via taxation, and then the wealth that they don't confiscate via taxation, they're trying to confiscate it via inflation, because inflation is really just a hidden tax. And who benefits from it? Well, central banks and governments tend to benefit from inflation because, they get to create that currency out of nothing and then they get to spend it first. And that's just the system that we live in, unfortunately. And honestly, as an individual, I don't really think there's a whole lot you can do to change that scenario. That's just how things are playing out. And it's likely to be how things play out moving forward. But what you can do is you can get as prepared as possible. And preparedness for this kind of an event, it can take a lot of forms. There's going to be a lot of stuff thrown at us over the next couple years, and you need to be getting prepared on multiple fronts. Now, one way, obviously, is you can stack up, some physical gold and some physical silver, real money that can't be inflated away. And I do think that that is a critical step, and that's going to be something that allows people to take advantage of the opportunities that will be presenting themselves. But also, you want to be stocking up on food, on essential items. You want to be getting into good physical conditioning, because let's face it, if you've got thousands of ounces of silver and a giant larder full of food, but you're massively overweight and you can barely move around, you can't do any physical labor to save yourself, you can't run away from a threat, then all of those preps might end up being useless in the wrong scenario. But another thing we need to be doing to prepare ourselves is getting our psychology right, and that means not being scared of what is coming, but instead looking to capitalize on those opportunities that are going to be presenting themselves. Now, at this very moment, I do view one of the best opportunities out there to be physical silver, because I think that given everything that's going on in the world right now, this stuff is just ridiculously underpriced, and the fact that you can swap out fiat paper currencies for real physical tangible metals at the prices that we still can today is, it's a steal, and it's something that we should all be taking advantage of. Now, of course, this isn't financial advice. I'm just some guy on YouTube sharing with you my thoughts. So, don't watch this video and go out and go all in on physical silver and spend your life savings. Do your own due diligence. And also, by the way, that's nothing I would ever recommend anyway. What I like to do is just kind of slowly accumulate this stuff when there's pullbacks, and to try to dollar cost average and accumulate a stack. But other things that we can be doing also is like getting out of debt, starting a side hustle, figuring out what you can do to earn a little extra income. And maybe that means picking up some extra shifts at work. Maybe it means doing an Uber and taking that $20 or $30 that you make from a ride and buying an ounce of physical silver. Or, maybe it means just paying off your student loans, getting out of your credit card debt. Maybe it means planting a garden and becoming self-sufficient that way. There's countless things we can be doing to get prepared. But when everything really starts to fall apart, and I mean, to be fair, it really already has started. We've already got near double-digit inflation. We're in a deep recession. Fed's hiking rates. There's plenty of negative stuff going on. But like I said, I don't really want to focus on that here. What I want to focus on is the opportunities that are going to be coming our ways. Because folks, when the economy really tanks, it's going to catch a lot of people by surprise. I mean, if I were to wake up tomorrow morning and turn on the news and see a story that the dollar was massively devaluing and that nations around the world were unloading their treasuries and the dollar's status as the world reserve currency was under threat in the mainstream news. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised by that. I would say, well, it's about time. I've been expecting this to occur for some time, and it's shocking really that the current system has managed to be as resilient as it has. But for most people, that would come as a huge shock. Most people, I think, have been conditioned to believe that everything's going to be okay. If you just kind of put one foot in front of the other, maybe you go to school, get a degree, get a job, save up some fiat, maybe you buy a house, you take on a bunch of debt, you buy some vehicles, you have some kids, you take on more debt, they go to school and they take on a bunch of debt, and somehow this is all going to work out in your favor if you just let things play out the way they are. But the problem is, of course, that none of that is true, and that is a recipe for disaster in today's environment. But for those of us who are aware of what's going on and who see the writing on the wall and who understand that, this system is not sustainable and that things that aren't sustainable won't be sustained, then, none of this should really come as a surprise, and we don't need to be frightened, and we just need to be ready to capitalize when assets begin to crash and when things go on sale, especially when they go on sale in terms of real money, because that is something that I think is almost guaranteed moving forward in the relatively near future. Now, I'm not trying to time markets or anything. This could happen in months, it could happen in years, but in the relatively near future, there are going to be a lot of assets like stocks in good companies, good businesses that add to society. Shares in those companies are going to be on sale very cheap. There's going to be real estate, which is very inexpensive, whether it be homes or apartments or commercial real estate. There's going to be a lot of property that goes on sale in the very near future. There's going to be automobiles. There's going to be cars. There's just going to be all sorts of things that plummet in price as the economic disaster that we are living through unfolds in earnest. Now, whether or not those prices will be dropping in dollars, I think is a little bit up in the air. If we get massive inflation, then perhaps the value of those things, or rather the price of those things, will be going up. But I don't think that they will be going up relative to real money, meaning gold and silver. I firmly believe that within the next decade, there is going to be a moment, at least a period of time, when assets today that you could not purchase for this 5-ounce silver round are going to go on sale, and you will be able to purchase them for something like this. The price measured in real money of these assets is going to be declining. And for those of you watching, for my audience, I hope that you're all getting prepared, and I want you to have the mindset not to be frightened of these things. There's nothing you can do about a world in upheaval, because guess what? The world has been in upheaval since the dawn of time. The world has gone through countless upheavals, countless changes in the social order and the monetary system and the financial system. If you study history, you're going to realize that the one constant thing really is just change, and that things are always changing. And, as a human being, you're only here for so long. We have a limited time on this planet, so sometimes it's hard for us to take the long view of things. And it's very easy for us to get caught up in this normalcy bias that just because, for the past couple of decades, things have been relatively stable and relatively the same, that they're always going to be that way. But of course, that is a fallacy, and that is just something that the human mind tends to fall into. It's called normalcy bias. And just talk to your average person on the street. Plenty of people are suffering from this. But that's okay that very fact is the reason that those of us who are prepared are going to be able to capitalize and thrive when things really start to fall apart. Now, I'm not saying that times aren't going to get hard. They are. I mean, there may be times when there's no food in the grocery store. There may be times when, you don't have access to critical services. There may be times that no matter how much gold and silver you have, you're still going to have to suck it up and live through some difficult times. And that is just part of life too. Life is struggle. But if you are strong and if you are prepared, you are going to be able to come out on the other side of this thing and do very well for yourself, because after every winter comes a spring. There's going to be a time of rebirth and regrowth after this economic collapse that we're facing down. If you play your cards right and you get prepared for the collapse that's coming, you're going to be one of those people who comes out looking okay on the other side. And I hope that everybody watching falls into that camp. I hope that I myself fall into that camp. There's no guarantee for any of us, of course. I really do believe that if you take the time to get prepared today, you can have a better tomorrow. And that means making some sacrifices today, It might mean not getting that coffee at Starbucks, or it might mean driving an older car and not borrowing a new one with debt, so that you can take some of your money and put it into real tangible hard assets or other investments that are going to help get you through to the other side. But this video is getting kind of long now. It's really sort of just a rambling one. I'm recording this at night. It's just sort of a spontaneous video where I wanted to share some of my musings with you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and end the video now, but before I do, I just have one question for all of you out there, and that is, what opportunities do you think might present themselves that you'll be able to take advantage of if you are prepared? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you all very much for watching. I will catch you next time. Smart Silver Stacker, out.